Welcome, Judge Chicchelly. It's good to see you. You may have a seat and get settled comfortably, and when you're ready, you may begin with your opening statement.
Great. Madam Chair, Commissioners, good afternoon. And I just want to start by thanking you once again for the time, your generous time, and for your commitment to this process. When I became a district court judge 7 years ago, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution and without fear, favor, affection, or hope of reward, to the best of my knowledge and ability, to administer justice equally to the rich and to the poor. Since then, I've taken that oath very seriously and every day, not only in my work, but in everything that I do. I seek to preserve the principles of justice and the rule of law. It's a critical task, one that I believe affects every Iowan, in forging their confidence and trust in a strong and impartial judiciary that they can count on when they bring disputes or have been wronged by others. That's why I am here once again, and I know that all of you, as shown by your continued dedication to this process, similarly hold these tenets true. To that end, I'm also here because I continue to believe that the Iowa Supreme Court is in need of a judge with lengthy and significant district court experience, who has managed heavy and varied dockets, and who has a track record of commitment to public service and a strong work ethic, has excellence of character and action. I continue to believe that I can fill this void on our court. But before I talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about what got me here and what has uniquely prepared me for this task. I'm one of 7 children born to parents who were children of the Great Depression. Mom was raised on a dairy farm. Dad's parents owned a general store that struggled in the economy of that time. And despite their socioeconomic situation, my grandparents made sure that my dad went to college. He entered college at the age of 16. He began law school by the time he was 20. And after law school, he served in the United States Army as an officer in counterintelligence in Korea. My older siblings, many of whom are lawyers, spent their early years in Omaha as Dad worked to support the family in a small law firm, and Mom became a world-class homemaker, a real world-class homemaker. She's fantastic, still. And in 1966, my dad was hired as general counsel at United Fire and Casualty in Cedar Rapids, and my parents moved the family to Cedar Rapids. I was born in Cedar Rapids a year later, and other than for brief absences for my military service, my internship with Congressman Tom Taki in Washington, D.C., and in my very early law career, I've resided in Northeast Cedar Rapids ever since. My parents took faith and servitude very seriously. My siblings and I all benefited from an excellent Catholic education. We attended church every Sunday and every holy day. We helped at church fundraisers and activities. Our parents showed us how to be generous of time and talent, and for others less fortunate, and they role modeled for us a lifestyle of giving back to their community. By their service at the local soup kitchen, by their service on many boards and commissions, both in our church and throughout our community. For me, growing up in a very large family had its pluses and minuses, but mostly pluses. I wore hand-me-down clothes of my older sister, who's 10 years older than I am. Mom always cut our hair, so it was never the most stylish. And we rarely went out to eat or bought new things. We went to a lot of garage sales. Always drove rebuilt used cars. I remember my car when I was in high school honked whenever I turned left. With 7 intelligent, strong, and diverse-minded children, you can bet there was never a dull moment in our household. And as a middle child, I honed my dispute resolution skills at a very early age, unless I was involved in the dispute. My parents definitely knew how to stretch a penny, and for their efforts, they were able to send every one of the 7 of us to college. In fact, by the time I reached college age, 3 of my older siblings had actually already completed law school. Being one of 7 kids shapes a person. And having parents who are dedicated to God, family, and community also does. My parents are my heroes. I got my mom's farm girl work ethic through weeding the garden, shucking corn, snapping beans, mowing, doing housework, and taking care of my younger sisters. My dad also inspired me in many, many ways. To me, even now, despite his current battle with Alzheimer's dementia, to me he always is and will be the smartest guy in the room. His accomplishments motivated me. By the time I was 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to go into the law. I was always well aware of my dad's early college and law school matriculation, which inspired me to consistently challenge my teachers and press as far ahead in my studies as I was able. In 6th grade, for instance, I finished the entire grade level math book in a matter of just weeks. This led me to completing 7th and 8th grade math coursework in the next couple of months thereafter. By the 7th grade, my parochial school had to come up with a plan for me to take high school level courses. By the 9th grade, I was tutoring seniors in some subjects. I also strived for excellence in music and sports, making the varsity softball team as an 8th grader, and attending All-State Music Festival 3 times on the B-flat clarinet. After high school, I pressed through college in 3 years on a full-ride scholarship while simultaneously rowing on the women's rowing crew and working as a waitress at a local pizza restaurant. And I was also active in student government and college Republicans. Though my successes were many and varied, strangely, they were not entirely fulfilling. I considered the examples that my parents had set for me, and I found that there was something missing. That missing piece was service. So one day, without my parents' knowledge, I took a detour into the Marine Corps recruiting station in Cedar Rapids. It took me less than 30 minutes to determine that this was something that I was called to do. And when you are called, you go. So heading to college on a full ride and having turned down an opportunity to attend Yale University, I signed up for Marine Corps Officer Candidate School at Quantico. There I learned selflessness and humility, strength in leadership, patience, and esprit de corps. As many of you know, my time in the Marines was cut short due to injuries to both of my legs, and returning to college afterward was therefore incredibly challenging. Having to get around on crutches for a matter of months was something that just really builds a person's resolve and fierce tenacity. In the years subsequent, I graduated from the University of Iowa as well as the University of Iowa College of Law. I met and married my husband, Tony. In the 26 years that Tony and I have spent together, we've brought forth Sarah and Hannah, our daughters. Sarah is an epidemiologist in the state of Kansas, and Hannah is a junior in chemical engineering at the University of Iowa. And they are brilliant young women, but I will tell you, as many successes as I've had in my life, they are by far undoubtedly my greatest achievements. Each and every one of these formative experiences has stuck with me, and they inform me daily on all of my interactions and in all that I do. They've led me toward a life dedicated to giving back and serving and to always striving to give my best effort, always striving for excellence. This has also led me to taking on leadership roles in most everything that I do, in my church, my children's schools, my Kiwanis group, the Bar Association, and even the Judicial branch. And my very early experiences especially have guided me toward a legal career where for 20 years I represented real clients, real Iowans, shoulder to shoulder in family law, criminal law, probate and juvenile matters. While my courtroom success was certainly their success, I will tell you that equally, when they felt pain, so did I. I also took on hundreds of pro bono cases in an endeavor to increase and improve access to justice for all. In February 2013, I answered Governor Branstad's call and joined the district court bench. And now, with 7 years of judicial court experience on one of the busiest judicial dockets in our state, I come before you with exceptional breadth and depth of judicial experience, and I assert to you that the Iowa Supreme Court is in need of the balance and perspective and practicality that a very experienced district court judge can provide. In fact, with 7 years of district court experience, I have more than double the district court experience of the entire rest of the Iowa Supreme Court combined. However, more than just length of tenure, it's important to note that I presided over hundreds of jury and non-jury trials, including complex civil litigation, corporate actions, medical malpractice cases, family law, custody, probate, criminal felony and misdemeanor cases, farming disputes, real estate, tax, contract matters, just to name a few. My dockets are always varied, and they rotate monthly. I serve on the very urban dockets of Lynn and Johnson counties for about half the year, a little over half the year, and also preside on the rural county dockets at Marengo, Anamosa, Vinton, and Toledo for about a third of each year. And as a court of general jurisdiction, I essentially do everything all the time. But more than just a profound substantive knowledge and the ability to research and write, what I believe makes a trial judge the best candidate for this position is that we know how to and practice regularly the exercise of judicial discretion in making critical evidentiary decisions on a moment's notice, grappling with statutes and cases, new and old, instructing juries, and reaching conclusions on the correct application of the law. I've engaged in the thought process of making these decisions, and I assert that my experience and my track record of making prompt and correct rulings, my solid practical understanding of how we get the job done at the district court level, all of these are critical skills that I can bring to the Iowa Supreme Court. And in my work, I get it right. And I know you've heard this before, but it serves to remind you that my reversal rate continues to provide firm evidence of the solidity and correctness of my decision making. Currently, I have only 2 partial reversals over the course of the last 7 years, resulting in a reversal rate of less than 2.5 in 10,000 rulings. This is not an easy accomplishment when considering that a ruling may be reversed on something as simple as missing a surcharge in a sentencing order or by miswording or misapplying the appropriate legal standard in a ruling. I also bring with me servant leadership, compassionate temperament, a yearning to educate others, consensus building skills, and a strong dedication to public service and providing justice to the people of our state. And I consistently strive to do more, to take on additional responsibility, and to give back, as my parents taught me. In short, I believe that my past years of experience and service would support my candidacy for this position, and I would look forward to serving the state of Iowa in the capacity of the Supreme Court for many years to come. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you. Thank you. And we will begin questioning with Ms. Stanger.
Well, you actually took my judicial oath. I've been asking folks about that phrase already today, so thank you for sharing the importance of that to us. I guess I'll dig into something more specific. Would you tell us about a significant case or a matter that has had an impact on you, and maybe how you would approach your role should you be honored to be appointed to the Supreme Court?
So I consider everything to have a lot of gravity as a district court judge. You know, every dispute is a little bit different. Some disputes are bigger, some disputes are smaller, but when people come into the courtroom, it is always a big day for them. And so for me to pick one thing out, I'll go a little further back actually into my legal practice. 16-ish years ago, I had the privilege of representing a criminal defendant when he was charged with first-degree murder. It didn't take too long in digging into the case and digging into the medical evidence and talking to experts and so forth for me to realize that based on what I was seeing, that my client indeed was innocent. Coming to a case and knowing that the work that you're doing is a matter of life and death for this individual really inspires you to do your absolute best work. But I have reflected on that quite a lot, and I believe that every situation requires me to do my best work. That inspired me, but I bring it every day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pearson?
I do not have a question, but thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Mr. Gray?
No, I agree. Again, it's good to see you again, but I have no more questions.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Hoytik?
I don't have any questions, but it is good to see you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Ms. O'Brien?
Thank you. Judge, we read that mental illness has become front and center for law enforcement and the people who are operating the jails and so on. And I'm sure you see it on a regular basis in the district court. From a system standpoint, is there something the court system should be doing in addition to what it's already doing to address these concerns, and would addressing them somehow improve the justice for all concept?
You know, I really do think that we're starting to make some inroads with regard to mental health. We have such a long ways to go. It's a much more prevalent problem than I think even meets the eye, because so many people that come into the criminal system, you think that what you're seeing is just criminal thinking, and really what it is illogical thinking and thinking that is really addled by mental health issues. What we've started to do in the 6th Judicial District is to divert people from bringing them in on warrants to the jail when it's really pretty clear that what is happening with them is a mental health issue. and taking them instead to the hospital and to a secure setting where they can be treated and where they can hopefully have that help so that they can then more logically help us to address what we can do with them. We've got a long ways to go. We're kind of just really starting to get our heads around mental health a little bit better, and I think that the more that we can do in those sorts of situations to get them help before then addressing what we need to do in the courtroom is going to be really beneficial.
Thank you.
Mr. Horbach.
I have no question.
Mr. Spies.
Hello, Judge Chicchelly.
Hello.
Well, I was intrigued, first of all, about your just speaking a moment ago about the burden of representing the truly innocent. And there's a very moving law review article that I'll share with you sometime about that. I think I heard you to say at the outset of your presentation that the court is in need of balanced practicality. Is that intended as a observation that there's a shortage of it on the court? And if not, why not? And if so, how so?
I think that maybe a good key to excellent decision writing is to focus on brevity, to focus on the issue. You know, certainly in the Supreme Court, you're going to need to provide some historical perspective, but I think sometimes if you loosen it up too much, you could lose the message in all of the excess, if that makes sense.
You stated it very diplomatically.
Well, that's my job. But you know, honestly, that's really kind of my lean. Is that I think that the tighter that you make a ruling and you focus it on what the problem is at hand, then we have less of a chance of getting lost in the dicta somewhere in terms of what should we then, as district court, be doing with that case law in application in later cases.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ms. Law.
Well, I have two questions. The one I'd really like to ask is, since you have a daughter that's an epidemiologist, what's up with coronavirus? But that's not really appropriate for today, so, and probably not time spending our interview. But I'd really like to ask you, you have lots of judicial experience and your reversal rate, and that's just incredible. So, but you have also a lot of private practice experience. What's the biggest thing that you learned from private practice that you could take to the bench?
I think that the most important thing that any lawyer can learn in bringing it to the bench is empathy, is that these are real people with real problems, and that their problems may not seem big to someone else, but it's the biggest thing that they have going on, and that they think it's so important to bring it to the court. We need to be respectful of that. And so that, when I took my oath and when I first spoke to the public after becoming a district court judge, I said, and I will always remember, that every day I remember what it's like to be a lawyer. I remember what it's like to have clients. I remember what it's like to feel their pain. And to have that right here when I am ruling on something from the bench, I think that's really critical.
Thank you.
Mr. Bevel.
No questions.
Mr. Bloom.
No questions.
Mr. Goodman.
Judge Chicchelly, thank you for your application. Any lawyer that's selected to be put on the Supreme Court has a big transition to make from advocate to neutral referee, and any district court judge who has sat in judgment of cases and made their own decision in the case that binds the parties has a different transition to make to the Supreme Court, and working with 6 other justices and reaching consensus or writing a dissent. Can you tell me what things would stay the same for you as a judge moving to the Supreme Court, and what things would be different when you move to the Supreme Court?
Well, I think that I would continue to bring my critical thinking. I would continue to really keep my eye on what's at the heart of the dispute. Certainly, I'm not going to physically move anywhere if I were to assume a role on the appellate court. Those things would all stay the same. My temperament, my demeanor, my experience, my practicality, all of those things would stay the same. But I think that the biggest thing would be, an interaction with people, whereas a district court judge has that interaction with the public really day in and day out, just having a little more distant interaction with the public and probably more controlled settings, that would be quite a difference for me. I think that would be the largest adjustment that I would need to make.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good, very good. Well, we are at the end of our question time today, but we certainly thank you for being here with us again today. Thank you for your application, and we wish you well.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.